Welcome you all to my channel. Let's Learn. Dear students, in part 1 we have already discussed about sentence, about word, term, clause, verb, object, complement, adjunct. We have discussed all this in part 1. And in part 2, we have already discussed about types of sentences. And in that part, we have already discussed there are 3 types of sentences. They are simple sentence, compound sentence, and complex sentence. Perhaps you have watched all my videos, that is part 1 sentence and part 2 types of sentence. If you haven't watched, then you must watch it, as today's discussion is also interlinked with those 2 parts. So these 3 parts are interlinked with each other. Today's discussion is the 2 main parts of a sentence. 2 main parts. You know, each and every sentence has 2 parts, and they are the subject and the predicate. And it is important to know how to identify subjects and predicates in the sentence. And remember that every sentence must have a subject and predicate. Before going to identify the subject and the predicate of a sentence, I want to tell you what is the subject and what is the predicate of a sentence. Now, you see, the subject is the doer of the sentence. It tells whom or what the sentence is about. The simple subject is the noun or pronoun that the verb acts upon. The complete subject includes additional words that describe the simple subject. The compound subject describes a subject with 2 or more nouns or pronouns. In a clause, the word or word group, usually a noun phrase, that is dealt with in active clauses with verbs denoting an action, the subject and the actor are usually the same. Now you see, in the definition of the subject of the sentence, I told you the subject can be divided into 3. One is a simple subject, another is a complete subject, and the third one is a compound subject. So, simple subject, complete subject, and compound subject are 3 types of subjects. What are they? The simple subject is a noun. The complete subject includes the additional words that describes the simple subject. And the third one is the compound subject. It describes a subject with two or more nouns or pronouns. We can take example. Old man is a simple subject. The older woman. Here there are two additional words. The older woman is the complete subject, and the compound subject is she and the older woman. Here you see one is the pronoun she and another is the older woman. In this way, we can find out the simple subject or the complete subject or the compound subject of a sentence. Now, we will go to what is the predicate. Predicate of the sentence. The part of the sentence or clause which states something about the subject or object of the sentence is called predicate. The predicate does the work of the doer of the sentence. The predicate shows a physical or mental action or it describes a state of being. The simple predicate is the verb that acts upon the subject of the sentence. The complete predicate includes additional words that modify the predicate. The compound predicate describes a predicate with two or more parts. Now, you see, like the subject, predicate can be of three types. One is simple predicate, another is complete predicate, and the third one is the compound predicate. The simple predicate is the verb. The complete predicate includes additional words that modify the predicate. And the compound predicate describes a predicate with two or more verbs. Now you see, we can take examples. Danced is a verb. It is the simple predicate. Then, had danced skillfully is a complete predicate. And then danced and sang. Here there are two verbs, danced and sang. So this is compound predicate. Now, you must remember two things about the subject and the predicate. What are they? The subject is the doer of the sentence and the predicate does the work of the doer of the sentence. This is most important. Subject is the doer of the sentence and the predicate is the predicate does the work of the doer of the sentence. Now, we will discuss how to identify subjects of a sentence. There are two ways. First, I will tell you how can we identify the subject of a sentence in a very simple way, in a very simple manner. You see, the simple subject is usually found at the start of a declarative sentence. To find the subject of the sentence, first identify any prepositional phrases and eliminate the nouns and pronouns found in these phrases from consideration. The subject of the sentence is not part of a prepositional phrase. Frequently, in imperative sentences, the simple subject you is implied, suggested, not stated. Now you see, this is the simple procedure to find out the subject of a sentence. Now, we will discuss how to find out the predicate of a sentence in a very simple way. Now, you see, to find the predicate, first identify the subject and ask what. The answer to this question should be the predicate. The predicate usually follows the subject in a sentence. However, it can be placed before the subject in a question. Like, we can take an example. What it is your mother's purse? In an implied or suggested, not stated sentence. Likewise, look out in a phrase or clause at the beginning of a sentence to add special emphasis. Even more interesting was the fact that she knew it would probably rain. So, you see, to find out the predicate of a sentence, it is very simple. That first you identify the subject and ask what. What is the root word? To ask the subject to find out the predicate. Done. Now we will see about simple predicate and complete predicate. What is simple predicate and what is complete predicate? He thought of an idea. She was a nice lady. An angry man tried to run me off the road. In these three sentences, thought, was, and tried. These are verbs. And these three verbs are the simple predicates. Simple predicates of the sentence. Now, we will see about the complete predicate. Now, look at the examples. He always thought of an idea. She was a nice lady. An angry man tried to run me off the road. Now, see, in the first sentence, I told you he always thought of an idea. He is the subject and the rest part is the complete predicate. And likewise in the second sentence, she was a nice lady. She is the subject and was a nice lady is the complete predicate. And in the third sentence, an angry man tried to run me off the road. Here, an angry man is the subject and tried to run me off the road is the complete predicate. So, one thing to remember that the predicate begins from the verb. So, the beginning word of the predicate is the verb. And I have already told you that the head word of the subject is a noun and the head word of the predicate is the verb. Now, we will see how to identify subject and predicate in declarative sentences. I have already told you in part 2. The topic was types of sentences, and there I have already told you about declarative sentences. So now we will see how to identify the subject and the predicate of declarative sentences. Now look at the table. The table is divided into two columns. One column is the subject and another column is predicate. From these two columns you are very clear and you can clearly know which is the subject and which is the predicate. Example, Bibek walks slowly. Here Bibek is the subject, walks slowly is the predicate. Soumya is a tall boy. Soumya is the subject, is a tall boy is the predicate. Rama and Hari are good friends. Rama and Hari is the subject, are good friends is the predicate. Iron is a heavy metal. Iron is the subject, is a heavy metal is the predicate. My parents have a lot of money. My parents is the subject, have a lot of money is the predicate. Rabindra can read. Rabindra is the subject, can read is the predicate. Time flies. It has only two words. Time is the subject, flies is the predicate. Now, you see the predicate part. In the predicate part, you can easily recognize the first word of the predicate part is the verb. And in the subject part, there is a noun, and that is the head word of the subject part. Now, we will discuss how to identify subject and predicate in an interrogative sentence. In part 2, I have already discussed about interrogative sentences. You know, interrogative sentences ask questions, and interrogative sentences are of two types. One is yes-no question and another is a WH question. Yes-no question begins with an auxiliary or a modal, and WH question begins with a WH word. You say how to find out the subject and predicate of the interrogative sentences. Finding out subject and predicate in interrogative sentences seems to be troublesome. Very simple process to find out subject predicate in the sentences is to change the question into a statement, and then the subject will be staring you in the face. Now we will discuss the very simple process how we will change the question to a statement form, and in the statement form we can easily recognize the subject and the rest part will be the predicate. Now look at the table. Is your house ready for visitors? And in the statement form it can be changed. Your house is ready for visitors. Have you brushed your teeth today? You have brushed your teeth today. Is this your jacket? This is your jacket. Is he coming here? He is coming here. These are about yes-no questions. And in the statement form, you can easily recognize the subject part. In the first sentence, is your house ready for visitors? We have changed it into statement form that your house is ready for the visitors. Here, your house is the subject. So, in the question form, your house is the subject and the rest part of the sentence is the predicate. Just like, have you brushed your teeth today? Its statement form is, you have brushed your teeth today. Here, you is the subject and in the question form, you is the subject. Similarly, you can easily see and recognize the subject and predicate part of the yes-no questions. Now, we will see how to identify subject and predicate of WH questions. WH questions. Now, see, the table shows two columns. One column is question column and another column is statement column. And you can see in the statement column, the underlined parts are the subjects. And now I will discuss where is your house. Where is your house? If we will change it into statement form, it will be your house is where. Your house is where. Here your house is the subject and the rest is the predicate. Like that, when did you brush your teeth? Its statement form will be you did brush your teeth when. Here use the subject. So in the question part you can identify you as the subject and the rest part of that sentence is the predicate. And in the third example, how do I zip your jacket? How do I zip your jacket? Its statement form will be I do zip your jacket. How? Here I is the subject and in the question part I is the subject also and the rest is the predicate. And in the fourth example, who is cooking rice? Its statement form will be who is cooking rice. Here who is the subject and is cooking rice is the predicate. Here WH word is also the subject of the sentence. And another example is the last example, what was your name? Its statement form will be what was your name? And what is also the subject of the sentence and the rest is the predicate of the sentence. And in this way we can separate the subject and the predicate from a sentence. Now you see, in yes, no interrogative sentences simply identify the verb, then identify its subject. But be careful, because the verb is usually out of the regular order that you are used to seeing. Now, you see the example. Did Madhusmita and her friends go to the concert? Here, identify the verb. We identify the verb is did go. And then identify the subject. We identify Madhusmita friends as the simple subjects of the verb did go. This is the simple procedure how to find out, how to identify the subject and the predicate. Now, we will discuss how different steps how to identify subjects and the verb in WH questions. There are different steps. Now, you see, to identify the subject and the verb, we need to disregard the questioning WH word that starts the sentence. Let's take an example. Whom is he going to see tonight? The first point or the first step is identify the WH word. We identify whom. Whom is the WH word here. And then second point is ignore or remove the WH word from the sentence. Now we will remove whom. Then the sentence will look like, is he going to see tonight? There is a question mark at the end. Then identify the verb. We identify the verb is going. And then fifth point is identify the subject of is going. Remember whom has been removed, whom we have removed, and you must work with what has left. Then ask who or what is going. The answer is he is going. Thus, he is the simple subject of the complete verb is going. So, in this way, we can find out the subject and the predicate of WH questions. And you must remember these steps. How to find out? This is very difficult. To find out the subject and predicate of WH questions. And now we will see about interrogative adverbs. Interrogative adverbs. You see, it is important to remember that an interrogative adverb can never be the subject of any verb. So when you run into an interrogative sentence that starts with an adverb, disregard the adverb as you did with the WH interrogative pronouns. Example, how did she know where to find us? Now, what are the steps? First, identify the interrogative adverb. Here, the interrogative adverb is how. And then ignore or remove the adverb. That means we will remove how. Then the sentence will look like, did she know where to find us? And then identify the verb. And when we will identify the verb is did know. Did know. Then identify the subject of did know, and we can identify easily, that is she. So here she is the subject and the rest part of the sentence is the predicate. Now we will identify the predicate and subject in imperative sentences. Subject and predicate in the imperative sentence. You see, an imperative sentence gives forceful advice, gives an order or gives an instruction. We recognize the imperative sentence by its impersonal tone created by the absence of a subject. In an imperative sentence, the subject of the verb is always you, but the subject is never written into the sentence. The unwritten subject you is understood to be this subject. So, dear students, you must remember, I have already told you in part 2 about imperative sentences. Here, the subject is you always. You is the subject in imperative sentences, always. And it is unwritten. There is no necessity to write you. And it can be understood easily by everyone. Now, we can take some examples. Be careful. That means you should be careful or you be careful and take only what you need. That means you take only what you need. Here, there is no necessity to use you at the beginning of the sentence. So, you is the subject in all sorts of imperative sentences. And there is no necessity, no need to mention you in the sentences. It is unwritten and it can be understood easily. And the complete sentence is the predicate. Because you know very well that all imperative sentences begin with the verb, and the verb is the best form. I have already told you in part 2. Now we will discuss how to identify subject and predicate in inverted sentences. Inverted sentence is a new one for you. Inverted sentence. This is very new for you. You see the definition and details about inverted sentences. Inverted sentences do not play any significant role in technical or business writing because their structure makes them very conspicuous. And in the table you can see there are two columns. First column is normal order sentence and the second column is inverted sentence. And in normal order sentences, I have written you should try to visit Ritu more often, and its inverted sentence will be to visit Ritu more often. You should try. And second one is the wind was warm and gentle, normal form, and its inverted form is warm and gentle was the wind. So from inverted sentences we can change it into normal sentence form, and from the normal sentence form we can easily recognize, we can easily find out the subject, and if we will be able to find out the subject, then we can easily find out the predicate of that sentence. And in these two sentences, in the first sentence you is the subject, and in the second sentence the wind is the subject and the rest is the predicate. Now we will review again what we have discussed today. This is most important, and dear students, you must note it carefully, and it will be very important, very useful for you. See, I have written 8 points. You can see. Now you see. First point is an interrogative question asks a question. Second one is many interrogative sentences start with WH words. Third point is removing WH words helps us find subjects and verbs. Fourthly, at times the WH word can be the subject. And fifthly, interrogative adverbs can never be subjects. Sixth, imperative sentences give strong advice and order or an instruction. Seventh, the subject of an imperative sentence is you. It can easily understood. And the last point is the subjects of inverted sentences are usually quite close to the verb and can be found either before or after the verb near the end of a sentence. These are 8 important points. You must remember these points, and it will help you definitely to find out the subject and the predicate of the sentences. And this is all about the subject and predicate and the two main parts of a sentence. Thank you all, my dear students. If you like my video, please like, comment and share, and subscribe my channel. Don't forget to click on the bell icon to get new notifications of my new videos. Thank you all, my dear students.